Welcome to Out with Dan, the podcast that spotlights and examines the voices of LGBTQ+ authors, characters, and our allies. Together, we lift our voices and we tell our stories. I'm Dan White. Join me as I chat with this week's author. Hello and welcome to a special edition of Out with Dan. This is a Saints and Sinners edition, and today I'm joined by Caleb Tankersley. Welcome, Caleb.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited to return to Saints and Sinners this year. I went last year for the first time. I believe this is your first time. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah, I'm excited as well.
Oh, lovely. Have you been to New Orleans before?
I have many times. I actually, I got my PhD at the University of Southern Mississippi, which is maybe an hour and a half away. So, I was there for 4 years in the area. So I spent a lot of time in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's nice. That's one lovely thing. If you can get to a place like New Orleans easily, it's definitely a destination. So do you have some places that you'd like to return to while you're in New Orleans, or some places that are new to you? What's on your agenda?
I definitely have places to return to. I have really fond memories of spending time with my friends, eating brunch at the Palace Cafe. There's Magazine Street is full of all kinds of wonderful little shops and restaurants, and there's a place my partner and I used to go every time we went to New Orleans called DeVille Coffee House and Creperie. It's maybe an hour and a half south of the French Quarter on Magazine Street. There's a really wonderful pizza place called Pizza Delicious that I think was voted when it opened one of the best pizza places in the country. So.
I might have to check that place out. I've not been there, so that sounds interesting. I like pizza.
Yeah, New Orleans has an infinite amount of wonderful food.
Absolutely. If you can't eat or drink or have a good time in New Orleans, you're probably dead.
That's true.
And they have a cemetery for that as well. So.
Exactly. Even the cemetery is kind of fun.
I totally agree. So your new collection of short stories is called Sin Eaters. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Give us a little taste of what that's like, Caleb.
Sure. Well, here's what the cover looks like.
Oh, I love that cover.
Yeah, thank you. I love it too. So Sin Eaters is a collection of short stories. And they're all, of course, they're short stories. There's a lot of variety in there, but kind of the through line is sexuality and religion often look through a kind of speculative or fabulous lens. I grew up in rural Missouri, and my dad was a Southern Baptist pastor. So not the easiest place to be gay and come out. So I think a lot of the stories are sort of dealing with that, sort of exploring the strange intersection sometimes between genuine, I guess, religious belief and then dealing with sexuality. That sounds really like heavy, and it is at times, but I also hope there's a healthy dose of humor in there as well.
Well, and I think it is a heavy subject. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina in a Free Will Baptist church. And as I like to tell people, you have the free will to go straight to hell at any time. So take one little boo-boo and it's bye-bye for you. So I think it is something that, especially for those of us who grow up in any kind of religious environment, whether it's Baptist or Catholic or whatever, we have this thing where we carry that with us because sometimes there are scars that we carry with us. And then I did notice on one of the descriptions of one of your stories, there's some redemption as well in your writing.
I mean, I hope so. You mentioned like scars or sort of leftovers from growing up in a heavily religious environment. And I think that's kind of what the book is exploring. Like a lot of my characters are sort of like myself, already pretty jaded, but it's almost like they can't get out of the mindset, or like there's little like shrapnel left in the way that they see the world, the way that they imagine the world works, and they're sort of, I think it's fun for me to, even in my own life and also in the characters, lives, to explore how that comes out, how those sort of religious experiences penetrate in ways that the characters maybe don't even recognize. So I hope that comes out in the book.
I look forward to reading it. I find that I feel the same way. You know, I look back at my life growing up and realize all the parameters and all of the boxes we were told we had to be inside of. And I find that even at my age now, which is not tender anymore, that I still find that those things still permeate my everyday life in how I deal with others. And I have to sometimes take a step back and say, don't be that person that you experienced as a child, because now you're the adult. You've got to make a difference. So I look forward to reading these.
Yeah, and it's sort of continually having to tell yourself that, right? I'm not in that anymore. I mean, you mentioned the characters looking for redemption, but even that is, you know, a thing to question. Like, why do they feel like they need to be redeemed? Like,
right? No, I agree with you.
But it even kind of, I don't know if this is, if you've noticed this as like a writer, but it even, my religious upbringing, I think, even influences the way I think about language, of just sort of being surrounded by that, I don't know, kind of the music of biblical speak or diction, which, you know, is kind of horrible sometimes, but it's sort of embedded in the way that I think and the way the characters think. And I don't know, also something I hope the book kind of explores.
I love that. I also think that if you grow up in a religion that there's a lot of passion in it, whether it's passion for good or bad, then I think that does influence us. I mean, I find that passion is something that most every human is attracted to, because you can get caught up in it. And sometimes that passion, as I said, can be used for good or bad. And that's always a tough thing, because as children, we are influenced by those things.
Right. And sometimes when people, like, you know, get out of the church, ex-evangelicals is the term that I would self-apply. I know a lot of people do as well. There's sort of almost like a mourning period that, like, I know this is good for me to get out of this, but like, it's difficult to have lost that passion and that sort of built-in community as well. And that's part of what's great, you know, of course, about like the found family of being in the LGBTQ community, and especially the writing community.
And I love the fact that for most writers, I think writing is cathartic. So we get to explore those inner thoughts that we have. And we can also use characters to drive that same kind of plot point home.
Yeah. I mean, I teach writing, and I, you know, tell my students it's, you know, at its core, writing is just sort of empathy, just kind of given a physical form on a page. You're just telling somebody else, hey, I felt this thing. Like, did you experience that too? And thereby creating connections.
Absolutely. And connections bring us back to our found family, which is so important to us, as for everyone as we grow. So I also noticed that you are the managing director of Split Lip Press. What is that?
I'm so glad you asked. Yeah, Split Lip Press is a small press that me and some wonderful, talented friends have been running. I've been on staff for the last 7 years, but the press has been running for about 10 years.
Wow.
And we focus on boundary breaking prose. So prose, and, you know, that's a broad focus, but we take it in any way you could imagine. Prose that's doing something a little bit different in terms of content or structure, but something that maybe a big five publisher might look at and think, oh, this is interesting, but I don't know that I could sell this. We would be interested in those kind of writing. So we publish full-length nonfiction, essay collections, memoirs, short story collections, novels, and also chapbooks in all the prose genres, and in more like experimental hybrid work. So it's just fun, you know, to make other people's literary dreams come true and to showcase great work.
That's wonderful. I absolutely love it. Do you have a website or social media for either one of those that you'd like to share? For you or Split Lip?
Both, yeah. I mean, splitlippress.com. You can go and buy our books and see what's coming up. And I think the Instagram is splitlippress as well. I also have a website, which is just my first and last name.com, Caleb Tankersley. And I'm on Instagram and post about book stuff sometimes. It's caleb.tankersley.
Fantastic. That sounds easy enough. And I look forward to seeing you in New Orleans, March 22nd to 24th for Saints&Sinners. Thanks for joining me, Caleb.
No, thank you, Dan. I'll see you there. We'll go to DeVille Crepe House.
Sounds like a winner to me. Hang on for me just a second. Thank you for joining us for a very special Saints and Sinners edition of Out with Dan. The Saints and Sinners LGBTQ plus Literary Festival is a part of the Tennessee Williams Literary Festival, and it is held each year in New Orleans. This year's festival will be March 22nd through the 24th. We would love to have you join us. For more information on Saints and Sinners, please visit sasfest.org.